So you're an interesting character because you are a dairy farmer, you're a stand-up comedian, and you're also an elder in your church. And so you have all these different vantage points on what's going on with coronavirus. So on the one hand, we could sit and talk a lot about milk and dairy and what's going on there, and we probably should touch on it. But you also oversee some really interesting things. And right now, you're in Washington State. The state, just to your south, Oregon, has said we're going to stay on coronavirus lockdown until I think July 1st. And you guys in Washington State are deciding to open up. How do you think that's going to net out? How two states right next to each other, totally different approaches.
I mean, it has the potential for being a complete disaster, right? I mean, you have people in Oregon that are going to be looking over the fence and saying, we want to go out fishing. We want to go out on the salt water. We want to go golfing. Why are they allowed to and we're not? And we're only a matter of 10 minutes away. And it's going to create severe angst. And those that don't open quick enough, they're going to face people that are just going to go out and do it anyway. You get a sunny 75-degree day, people are going to go out and do their thing. And there's not going to be a big enough police force to be able to tell everybody go back in your house again.
And what are your thoughts? I mean, on the contagiousness of this disease? Should people be staying inside? Like, is there a tangible difference between Oregon and Washington State?
So we were kind of the first ones to face it. And so we were shut down, I believe, quicker than most everybody else. And is it real? Absolutely, it's real. There's been people in our town that have died that they had choir practice from a church. And just the singing transmitted the disease. And we were in the national news for having two people that died from coronavirus because of the decision to go ahead and meet. And this religious liberties thing, to me, it's almost the canary in the coal mine, or it's going to be the front end of the revolution. And we're facing these decisions here locally. You know, I'm in church leadership, and do you open it up or do you not open it up? And there's a certain faction.
What do you think?
Likening I think we hold out for a little bit yet. But there are those that are saying this is a test of our faith. This is a test of our commitment. This is persecution. And I would say that it's not, because the local casino is being told they have to be shut down too. And the tennis court down the road is told to be shut down. And so for us to go and say, well, it's a religious liberties issue and we need to be open, I would disagree with that. And yet I think there's going to come a time where that's where it's going to break first, is people want to say, we're going to meet up. And quite frankly, I think if Obama was in office, we would have bloodshed already. I think the only reason we've lasted this long is because the people that are packing the guns and willing to fight for this being open listened to Trump longer than they would have Obama.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that the right said, all right, well, our guy is saying, let's go in, let's try and all do this, let's try and pull together. The religious liberties thing, this concerns me quite a bit. And I'm living in the city. A lot of the people that I see on Facebook haven't gone to church in 20 years. And when they looked at people going to church, they saw it as, you are going to expose more people who are going to get sick and then go get nurses and doctors sick, and that's not fair. But I think that it overlooks the fact that there are people that are taking this as an actual religious test. They feel like, my responsibility is to honor God, it's to go to church, it's to participate like in the Catholic tradition, like in these sacraments. And so if somebody is telling me I can't do it, am I not living up to my bargain with God if I don't go? And I think the people that just kind of roll their eyes and say, well, those silly religious people shouldn't think that, forget the fact that these people take that seriously and they don't care whether you think they should or not.
Yeah, I agree 100%, right? And it's you've got all different levels of thought in the church, and there are those that are more fanatical. And I'm a little bit discouraged because there's also an attitude of, well, we don't like our leadership, we don't like our governor, and so we want to stick it to them by going out and defying the stay-at-home order because we don't like our leadership. And that's not right either. And to me, as a Christian, you have an obligation to not scare people in your community. And when you have fear in your community and people are scared that this virus is spreading, you have an obligation to not sit there and say, well, we're above that and we deserve to be meeting in public and meeting as a group to worship when people can't visit their dying mother or father in the hospital. And that would be my reason for saying, hey, we need to stay closed until we get a very clear signal that it is okay and it is lawful from our government to meet.
I mean, I think that's definitely a fair assessment. And, you know, as a person that is a part of your church leadership, I mean, I think it really comes down to who are the leaders of your church? Is there a way that they can convince the people that are in their church that there are other ways to worship and that there's other ways to be respectful, and God is going to not look upon your decision not to do this disfavorably? I just, at its core, the idea that there was a group of people that could say you're not allowed to do it, you're not allowed to go to church, that sits very uncomfortably with me. And I say this not as a person that is deeply practicing. I was actually in the middle of an experiment this year. Last year I decided I want to run 500 miles. I want to see what happens to your mind and your body if you go 500 miles. You push yourself to run every day. And then this year I decided, hey, I left behind church a long time ago when I went away to college. And I kind of blew it off as just being superstitions and, traditions that my parents did and kind of roll your eyes. But then I was like, hey, wait a second. There's actually a ton of culture and interest and stories and parables that I don't know here. So why don't I go to church every Sunday for an entire year and just see what that's like? And so I was doing it almost as like a sociological experiment. And so I am in this weird position because I wasn't going because I felt that God obligated me to go. I was going because I was doing an experiment, and it made my wife happy. She liked it. But now you think about the people that are saying like you can't go, and the people that I was going to church with that had gone every year, every day, every week for 20 years. To just shut off their ability to go do this act because the majority is afraid of getting sick seems very dangerous to me, because it cuts away at the core of of why we started the country to begin with.
Well, I, for one, just wanted to say that I noticed a difference. You were kind of an asshole before, and now you're just really, really just, there's something about you that's just genuine and real. And
yeah.
No, but I mean, I would concur with that, because when you're dealing with religion and there's any thought that the government is trying to supersede that right to worship, it turns ugly quickly, and it turns violent quickly. I mean, most wars that are going on around the world have some element of religion tied to it, right? And killing in the name of religion is done often, and it scares me. And I would counter that a little bit by saying, I mean, our First Amendment right to assemble, well, that's been trampled on too. You take away the religious connotations, and that's been taken away too. So